Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the class. Today's topic is international economics. And this is going to be a quite new topic for most of you, but the topic is this house would make imported food expensive to protect local businesses and farmers. Okay, now let's look into a little bit of background of the motion, and then we're going to talk more about this. Okay, so, have you traveled before? I'm pretty sure that's a dumb question. I'm pretty sure everyone traveled before COVID-19. I promise, like, honestly, it's going to be very, very difficult for me to not travel. I love traveling with my family. My favorite place to go is Malaysia. And the reason is because food is so cheap and so good there. I am a foodie, so I love traveling to Southeast Asia and enjoying the cheap and delicious food. And have you ever thought about why food is so cheap in certain places? Well, because probably it's the weather. It's cheap to grow bananas in a very hot country versus when you live in the Arctic, like North Pole, you cannot really grow bananas, right? So just some places, certain types of food or certain type of things can be cheaper and easier to grow, and that's why some people like just going there to enjoy that food a lot. So we can start off with understanding what is trade. So trade, okay, so you did your Roblox, right? So I'm pretty sure you know what trade is. Yeah, you trade in Roblox and you trade, okay, this is a good deal, this is a bad deal. You see, someone's trying to trade off all their pets for a sandwich. I'm not sure if this is an awesome trade, but to be honest, you know, is trade is just you trade something of two goods of a better value, right? Globally speaking, the trade is not just about food, but if you take about cell phones, computers, or everything whatnot, the global trade is around like 19 trillion US dollars per year. Now, that's a lot of money. So people trade a lot between the businesses, between people, and between the countries. And that's what makes our world economy go round and round. People trade with each other, and that creates jobs and money. What is really a free trade? Now, this is a good idea. And I'm going to restrict this debate into food first because if I expand it to everything, it might be a little bit messy. So I want to keep it into food. So let's say if you're a farmer living in one area and you produce a lot of fruits and vegetables for cheap, right? Then what you can do is you can trade. You can trade online, like you see in the picture here, or you can meet and trade. And you're sending your vegetables in the price of goods or something that you need. Now, as you can see from the trade, the global trade has really increased and it made a lot of money for people. A lot of money. It's like big companies, like let's say, like like if you're like McDonald's, right? Then you can get your French fries and you can get your potatoes really cheap from other nations, and then you can make more French fries and sell it to people, so you can make a lot of money out of it. So what you can see is that as a result of trading all these food between the poor countries, rich countries alike, it makes a lot of money. Now this is something good, right? But is it? Well, to be honest, not sometimes, yeah. Usually the rich and powerful countries have and the powerful businesses might go to a farmer and say, look, I like your tomatoes. I want to buy your tomatoes. And then the farmer will say, yeah, sure, you want to buy it? And say, I'm only going to pay you this much, as you can see from the picture. And the farmer will say, well, but I need more money than this. And the reality is like, oh, well, then I'm going to go to the next farmer and you cannot sell your tomatoes. So this is a problem that we see in a lot of free trade. It's not sometimes fair. It's not like the fair trade that you saw from the Roblox that you see. And well, in the Roblox world, everyone's equal. So you can say, look, you know what? I don't want to, I want to decline the trade. Sure. But in real life, these farmers have no choice but to accept a very bad price for the food that they're going to sell. So without any protection of these farmers, we're not going to see, like what we see here is that at the end, then the farmers might not have a lot, so children might be working there. They might just grow poorer and poorer when they are selling their stuff to abroad. Now, that is really the problem of the free trade. Like some people say this is not really fair because if you think about it in the world, there's rich countries, there's poor countries, and some governments are powerful, some governments are not. And just because we want to make it free and say, look, we can buy, sell as much as you want based on the trade, we forget that there's always weak people, poor people. And that's why government, some people advocate by saying, look, this is not free trade. We want fair trade. We want a trade to be fair as possible. Now, the idea of fair trade is important, but here's the extent. So let's take an example for today's motion, okay? So, okay, we all want to make trade fair. So we're going to force something to government. The example that you see is tariff here, but you don't need to know what tariff here is because what I'm trying to propose in the motion is already the idea of tariff. So government in today's debate will say, look, I'm going to protect our poor farmers and poor businesses. And how do you do that? Well, if you want to buy from them, this is the price that you must pay for their goods. Or you can say, look, um, all these products are coming into the market really, really cheap. So we're going to protect the farmers by making the foreign foods expensive. So if you are a farmer in let's say Bangladesh, and then you're growing tea, right? And then all of a sudden, all the tea, like great teas that were made in India, they come really, really cheap. Then all of a sudden, you don't make any money, right? So what the government will say is like, okay, I'm gonna make your tea, I'm gonna make all the Indian tea that came in cheap as very, very expensive because we're gonna protect our business first. Let's take another example. It doesn't need to be food, for example. Yeah. Let's say you use Samsung phone. Yeah, Samsung, Apple, they're competitors. And let's say Korean government all of a sudden say, look, we're going to protect our cell phone. So because we want Samsung to be best in our market. So, and because a lot of people work for Samsung, I want our people to be protected first. So what they're going to do is like, okay, Apple, I know you're selling around $1,000 in Korean market, but I'm going to make you $2,000. You're forced to pay a tax to make Apple phones really, really expensive. And what happens then? Well, then, Samsung phone will be cheap compared to Apple. So everyone's going to buy Samsung. So you're going to help your business grow first before the foreign things come in. Yeah. So that's what the motion is asking. Let's look into some arguments saying like why this is a good idea or really a bad idea. So if you're going to say, look, we're going to make imported foods or goods expensive to protect local businesses and farmer, you want to say, let's make it fair because we need to protect ours first before we ruin any of our own business. First of all, relying on other countries for goods is too dangerous. It can be food, it can be anything, but if you make the things of, if you bring in really, really cheap things made from other countries to your place, and then as a result, you completely dry out your own business, then what if nobody wants to trade with you? Then no, in your country, no one makes phones, no one makes foods, and this is going to be a big problem, isn't it? Secondly, if you trade without protection, if you don't protect your own people, poor people will be very sad. Yeah, they're not going to survive. Rich people, no problem. Yeah, they can buy whatever they want. But then the poor people, if cheap things from other countries or, like if they come in, then you lose your farm and you lose your job. So this is a big issue. Thirdly, you can say, look, countries must protect the lives of the people first instead of like other things. So if you're a banana farmer, in a country and then bananas from let's say Brazil comes in really, really cheap, then your banana farm is doomed. Countries or the government has a duty to protect these banana farmers. Fourthly, it's impossible for any countries to have a perfect free trade. Come on, think about it. If it's nothing's really free at the end. We want to make it fair, and fair is really important. Fairing is caring. Fair trade is caring, right? Yeah, so those are the arguments from the pro. Let's look at the con side and say, yeah, I mean, sure, we want to make everything fair, but if you kind of make imported foods, like if you're gonna force like the Apple phones to be two times expensive just to, protect Samsung, This is not going to work. This is not a good idea. And you want to say, look, still, we got to be free. And this is more of an equal thing. It gives benefit to everyone. Because if you protect Samsung that much, Samsung will lose to be competitive. They're not going to invest in technology. Likewise, if you only protect your banana farmers and say, look, no other bananas can come into my country, the problem is the banana farmers will not work hard. And that's really the problem. Yeah. So, first of all, you want to give them a free competition. And then through free competition, they start to trade with each other. And that's where you make, countries become friendly to each other. Because when you start trading with each other, you want to make sure that both of you do well, just like friends. You want to, when you trade with your friends, you want to give value to them and you get some value back. So you care for each other. And so as a result of freely trading, it can actually be a good thing because they care for each other. Secondly, you can say freely trading increases technology. So let's go back to the example of Samsung I just talked about, right? So if all of a sudden the Korean government says, oh, we're going to protect Samsung, so we're going to make Apple phones really, really expensive. It's not that Samsung will work hard anymore. They're not going to increase their technology. They're not going to make their cameras better like it is today because why? Because they don't need to compete with Apple anymore. They got the price, yeah. It's always going to be like Apple phone's going to be super expensive, and everyone's going to have no choice but to have to buy the Samsung phone. And no, Samsung will not be as competitive anymore. Third argument here is that if you freely trade, it actually helps, poor people because if you think about it, like it is their way of making money. So like it might not, some banana farmers might not be happy if like cheap bananas from Brazil will come. But if you think about it the other way, what if that country makes really, really cheap rice? Then the farmers have incentive to sell the rice to Brazil. So if you think about it, trade, it really helps poor people because it cannot help all the businesses, but for some businesses you can actually help them by opening up new markets in the world. So think about it. It's like almost like Adopt Me server. If you only have 10 people in Adopt Me server, you're not going to trade much, right? But if you all of a sudden have 10, 20, 30, 40 servers all in one, well, the market is really big, so you can trade a lot. Lastly, freely trading makes everyone rich. So this is a great thing. We want to keep it that way. Yeah. Do not like come government like they should not barge in and make everything suddenly expensive because it's not going to help. Right. So these are the arguments that we can talk about in both pros and cons. Hopefully it was not that bad. Think about it. It's just uh, I put it to food. You can also put it to everything else. But anyway, the idea is that should countries protect their own business first, or should we just let them freely trade? And that's really the crust of today's debate. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Please come prepared, and I'll see you in next debate. Thank you. Bye bye.